There comes a moment in every man's journey when the storms of life no longer shake him, not because he has grown cold or detached from the world, but because he has discovered something the ancients called apatheia, profound emotional freedom. That comes not from suppression, but from understanding. You are becoming emotionally unbreakable. The signs of this transformation are already manifesting in ways that might surprise you. The first sign reveals itself in your relationship with criticism. Where once harsh words would penetrate your defenses like arrows finding their mark, you now observe them with the detachment of a scientist studying data. When someone attempts to wound you with their judgment, you find yourself genuinely curious about their motivation rather than defensive about their accuracy. This is not indifference, it is wisdom. You have learned what Marcus Aurelius knew. When he wrote that we suffer more in imagination than in reality, the criticism exists, but your emotional reaction to it has become a choice rather than an automatic response. You listen, you consider, you extract what serves your growth, and you discard the rest without ceremony. This is the beginning of true emotional sovereignty. Your relationship with anger has fundamentally shifted, marking another profound transformation. Rage once consumed you like wildfire, burning through your peace and leaving devastation in its wake. Now, when anger arises, you recognize it as information rather than instruction. You feel its heat, acknowledge its presence, and then watch it dissolve like morning mist before the sun. This is not emotional numbness, it is emotional mastery. The Stoics understood that anger is a temporary madness that clouds judgment and weakens resolve. You have learned to channel that fiery energy into focused action rather than destructive reaction. When others expect you to explode, you remain still. When they anticipate your fury, they encounter your composed consideration instead. This stillness in the face of provocation is not weakness. It is the quiet power of a man who has mastered himself. The third sign appears in how you handle betrayal and disappointment. Once, when trusted friends revealed their true nature, or when plans crumbled despite your best efforts, you would spiral into bitterness or despair. Now you understand what Epictetus meant when he taught that we cannot control what happens to us, only how we respond to what happens to us. Betrayal no longer surprises, because you have accepted the fundamental truth that people act according to their own understanding of what is good for them, not according to your expectations. Of loyalty. This acceptance is not cynicism, it's clarity. You still value genuine connection and invest in relationships, but you do so without the desperate need for others to validate your worth or confirm your worldview. When disappointment comes, you absorb its impact with the flexibility of a tree that bends with the wind but never breaks. Your approach to failure has undergone a remarkable evolution. Where failure once felt like a verdict on your worth as a man, you now recognize it as tuition paid to the University of Experience. Each setback becomes a case study in resilience, each mistake a lesson in humility and improvement. You have internalized what the Stoics called the discipline of desire, the understanding that attachment to specific outcomes is the source of most human suffering. You still strive for excellence, but your self-worth is no longer held hostage by external results. When projects fail, relationships end, or opportunities disappear, you maintain your center because you have located your identity not in what you achieve, but in who you are becoming through the process of achieving. This shift from outcome dependence to process excellence is the hallmark of emotional unbreakability. The fifth transformation manifests in your relationship with solitude. Once, being alone with your thoughts felt like punishment, a confrontation with inadequacy and insecurity. Now, solitude has become your sanctuary. It's a place where you reconnect with the essential you that exists beneath all the roles and expectations. You have learned what Seneca discovered in his later years, that the quality of your relationship with yourself determines the quality of all your other relationships. In silence, you have found not emptiness, but fullness. You no longer need constant stimulation or validation from others to feel complete, because you have cultivated a rich inner life that sustains you through any external drought. This comfort with solitude signals that you have become your own best company, and from this foundation, all your interactions with others become gifts rather than necessities. Your response to chaos and uncertainty has become a defining characteristic of your emotional unbreakability. In a world where most men are driven to anxiety by the unknown, you have developed what the Stoics called premeditatio meloroma, the practice of mentally rehearsing potential difficulties not to invite them, but to prepare for them. When crisis strikes, others notice that you do not panic or despair. Instead, you assess, adapt, and act with the calm efficiency of someone who has already considered the possibility of this exact scenario. This is not pessimism, but preparedness. You have accepted that change and challenge are constants in life, and by making friends with uncertainty, you have eliminated its power to destabilize your peace. Where others see problems, you see puzzles to solve. Where others see endings, you see beginnings waiting to unfold. The seventh sign appears in how you handle success and praise. Surprisingly, becoming emotionally unbreakable often means becoming less affected by positive external validation. You no longer need applause to confirm your worth or accolades to sustain your motivation. This is not because you have become arrogant, but because you have developed what Marcus Aurelius called an internal scorecard. It's a means of measuring your life that is independent of public opinion. When success comes, you receive it with gratitude but without attachment. When praise is offered, you appreciate the gesture but do not depend upon it for your sense of identity. This detachment from external validation frees you to pursue what truly matters to you rather than what others expect or applaud. You have learned that the most dangerous trap for a man is the addiction to being seen as successful rather than actually being successful at what matters most. Your communication has evolved into something that others find both compelling and mysterious. You speak less, but say more. Where once you felt compelled to fill every silence or defend every position, you now understand the power of strategic silence and selective engagement. When others engage in gossip, drama, or pointless argument, you simply do not participate. This is not social withdrawal, but social wisdom. You have learned that your peace is more valuable than being right. Your time is too precious to waste on conversations that lead nowhere meaningful. People begin to notice that you no longer take the bait when they attempt to draw you into their emotional chaos. This refusal to be pulled into the storm of others' making is not coldness, it is boundary setting at its most sophisticated level. The ninth transformation reveals itself in your relationship with pain, both physical and emotional. You have discovered that suffering is not the enemy the culture taught you it was. Instead, pain has become your teacher, discomfort your trainer in the gymnasium of character development. When physical pain arises, you breathe through it with the understanding that resistance increases suffering. When emotional pain visits, you welcome it as a sign that you are still alive, still growing, still capable of deep feeling. This is not masochism, but maturity, the recognition that a life worth living will necessarily include seasons of difficulty. You have stopped running from pain and started learning from it, and in this shift, you have discovered that most of your suffering came not from the pain itself, but from your resistance to it. Your relationship with material possessions and external circumstances has fundamentally shifted, where once your mood was dictated by your bank account, your possessions, or your living situation. You now maintain equanimity regardless of external conditions. This is not because you have become indifferent to material comfort, but because you have recognized that happiness sourced from external things is inherently unstable. You have internalized Epictetus' teaching that wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. You still work to improve your circumstances, but your peace is no longer held hostage by them. When material loss occurs, you adapt without despair. When abundance arrives, you enjoy it without attachment. This freedom from material dependency is perhaps one of the clearest signs that you are becoming emotionally unbreakable. The 11th sign appears in how others respond to your presence. People begin to seek your counsel, not because you offer easy answers, but because you embody calm in a chaotic world. They notice that you do not get swept away by the emotional currents that carry most men off course. Your friends and family start to view you as an anchor, someone who can be counted on to remain steady when storms arise. This is not because you have become emotionally unavailable, but because you have become emotionally reliable. You feel deeply, but you feel with wisdom. You care profoundly, but you care without being controlled by that caring. Others sense that you have found something they are searching for, a way to remain human without being helpless, engaged without being enslaved, passionate without being possessed. The final, and perhaps most profound sign of your emotional unbreakability is the emergence of what the Stoics called sympathia. Deep understanding of your connection to all things, coupled with a serene acceptance of your place in the larger order. You begin to see that the very experiences that once threatened to break you were actually forging you into something stronger. Every betrayal taught you self-reliance. Every failure taught you resilience. Every loss taught you to hold lightly what you love deeply. You realize that emotional unbreakability is not about becoming stone. It's but about becoming steel, flexible enough to bend without breaking, strong enough to bear weight without buckling, refined enough to maintain your edge, while serving purposes greater than yourself. This transformation is not complete because the journey of becoming never ends, but you have crossed a threshold from which there is no return. You have tasted the freedom that comes from emotional sovereignty, and having tasted it, you cannot go back to being enslaved by circumstances outside your control. You understand now that the most unbreakable man is not the one who never feels pain, but the one who has learned to alchemize pain into wisdom, pressure into strength, and chaos into clarity. The world needs men like you are becoming men who can stand in the center of the storm and remain unmoved, not because they do not care, because they care so deeply that they refuse to let their caring destroy their capacity to serve what they love. You are becoming emotionally unbreakable, not through hardness, but through wisdom, not through isolation, but through integration, not through suppression, but through transcendence. Remember this: the loudest man in the room is rarely the strongest. The most unbreakable man is often the quietest, for he has learned that true power speaks in whispers and moves in silence. He has discovered that the greatest strength is not the ability to dominate others, but the capacity to master oneself. And in mastering himself, he becomes a force for stability in an unstable world. A lighthouse for others lost in the storms of their own unexamined emotions. You are becoming that man. The signs are already there, written in your growing peace, your deepening wisdom, and your increasing ability to remain yourself, regardless of what the world throws at you. This is not the end of feeling, it is the beginning of feeling with wisdom. This is not the death of passion, it is passion refined by understanding. This is not becoming less human, it is becoming more fully human than most people dare to be. The most unbreakable man is not the one who never bends. He is the one who bends consciously, breaks strategically, and always returns to center. He is the eye of every storm, the stillness in every chaos, the wisdom in every crisis. He is what you are becoming, and the world is waiting for the gift of who you truly are.